Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Subscribing to My Podcast. Because I have a new guest featured every week, it makes it very difficult to maintain consistent viewership. So if there's one thing that you can do to support me or the guest featured on the show, it's by interacting with my channel in every way that you can. You can always decide to unsubscribe later if you decide that you hate me or my show. With that plugging aside, enjoy my discussion with Andrea Duhn is a student here at Iowa State, and she is a part of the All Tech is Human organization. It's a nonprofit organization that talks a lot about AI, technology, and then how it impacts our society. Andrea, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and then tell guests and viewers some of the important things they should know about you.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I'm a junior at Iowa State right now, majoring in philosophy and mathematics. I am in this organization, All Tech is Human, like you said. It's a nonprofit global organization. I'm in the University Network Board. There's 83 student leaders on 72 campuses in like 16 countries all over the U.S., in Canada, Europe, Asia, and some in Africa, so it's pretty big.
Yeah, and so I guess All Tech is Human is a really cool name, but what do you guys do? What does that mean? Like, what is the purpose of this organization? So our goal is just to promote responsible tech. There's a lot of areas like data privacy. I really like just responsible tech. I'm from a philosophy background, so tech, I don't know much, and I want to learn more about that, especially it's changing the world so much today. I want to focus on a little bit about the policy and regulations, for example, some companies should have. Some of these policies, some of these things, yeah. And that makes sense, too, because it's one of those growing things that are talking about. But I guess, like, when you guys are conferring as an organization, you're talking about these policies, are there things that you guys are doing as an organization? Like, are you guys passing legislation? Are you guys writing material, handing it out to people? Like, what is the organization?
Yeah, so we kind of put material out there for people to learn. Like, I'm on this in the University Network Board, I'm on this content committee that's led by two amazing student leaders, and we do a bunch of live streams. I was in my first one yesterday, and I was able to interview a couple people from the Young People's Alliance. One, Sam Heiner, co-founded it, and he was able to pass some legislation regarding regulating and with social media, and I'm not too, I don't know too many specifics on that, but it was cool to just hear him talk. And then there's also these reading groups that we're starting just to promote this responsible tech and learn more about it.
Yeah, so when you talk about responsible tech, what are some of the things that jump to your mind when you're talking about just that concept in general? Like, what are some of the ways that tech can be responsible or that people can be responsible with these things? Like, what are you referring to?
Yeah, well, with social media, like data privacies, companies, how they involve AI, and implementing ethics into AI and tech, which is very hard to do. It's not something like implementing ethics in the medical field, for example. But using like ChatGPT, what's morally ethical to how to use it, and there's many ways in mental health. How should you use tech, and go many ways.
Yeah, and so I guess the most attractive conversation that's happening right now is with new AI and all of these AI things, and that kind of dips its fingers into the creative field, it does it into the university field, it does it in research, it does it in all these things. So I guess, what are your thoughts on AI today? And then maybe if you have a more educated background, like what have you been learning about AI in this organization?
Yeah, wow. Well, AI, it's definitely just growing up with it and how it's so new and evolving. That's kind of why I wanted to join All Tech is Human, and I need to learn more about this. And I can just see on social media, there's some issues going around. Like one specific example I want to bring up. In considering mental health, this mother sued a chatbot company, Character AI, which I think Google has worked on, and her son was talking with this character, and this AI that, of course, in character, AI doesn't know human like context, and he said something along the lines of, like, I just want to go home or something. AI doesn't understand, well, he is home. What does he mean by that, right? And so he ended his life. And so the mother's suing, saying that, well, they're responsible for it. So AI, a huge part of it is, well, who takes the blame here, right? There's so many variables. Is it some people are like, well, the mom maybe should have looked more into this, took the phone away, something like that. But the company has a huge part of how should it regulate something like that. When should it stop and say, hey, this is a character while they're talking to this character, and kind of get them to realize that. So myself dealing with AI, I guess ChatGPT I think of, but I just think of scenarios that happen to other people, and I want to help that.
And so I guess if you're trying to come up with an overarching opinion on how we're supposed to feel about AI, or like how you personally feel about AI, what does that end up being? How do you feel overarching about AI?
Yeah, how I feel about it, I think it's a resourceful tool, and there are good parts of it. But I just think that, well, there's so many things that can go wrong with it, and I think everyone should just acknowledge it and learn more about it, because it is changing the world. And even if you don't see it, it's out there. So I think it's something that everyone should learn about.
So I guess when you're talking about learning about it, what are some of the things that you've learned that have maybe curated some of your opinions on it? Or what kind of things are you learning?
Well, I guess AI is in all sorts of areas, like art. I know, like, content creators like yourself can have dealt with it or seen it. And so just learn about, even with social media, like companies taking your data without you knowing, stuff like that. Just like spend less time on your phone. And back to art, though, there's this AI artist, Android, called Ada, AI-DA, I believe. And this artist has sold art pieces for a lot of money. I forget the number, but that's caused controversy, and it's pretty crazy just growing up with this. I kind of want to know, being a content creator, how you dealt with this.
Well, okay. Now, the interesting thing is the problems of AI, I feel like, exist differently on different levels of content creators. And I feel like, here's what I'll say. I'm like a worm. I'm just like right at the start of doing content and doing this a lot. And so for me, AI is just a wonderfully useful tool to kind of get me ahead and to lower the amount of man hours I need to put into the things that I'm doing. So me personally, I use AI to make clips of my show. And then what it'll do is it'll put it into the proper frame so that you can doom scroll while watching my stuff. It also puts auto captions on it. And then I can have it put B-reel. And the best thing is it cuts silences for me and stitches it together, and then it finds the parts in the episode that are the most enjoyable for people to watch. So what that does is that makes it to where I don't have to watch this full hour-long episode. I can just have the AI barf out like 20 clips that it thinks would be good, and then I get to edit those and put the little Subway Surfers on the bottom or whatever like garbage I need to do to the video to like make it good. So for me, it's really awesome because I don't have to put in double the time to make short form content of my stuff. The problem is for bigger people, they're getting their stuff and their content siphoned by AI. So other people are doing what I'm doing to my own podcast to other people's podcasts unconsensually. And so they are taking their podcasts, clipping it up, and then making a ton of money just reposting other people's content in a more digestible way. And so like the AI ethics are kind of different. I've never had to deal with it per se, because to me it's awesome. Like I get to use it. It makes my life so much easier. It really pushes up my views, and it really curates the way that I make my content. Like even now I'm really trying to speak faster. I'm really trying to make sure that my stuff is like easily cut upable so that it looks good on a clip, right? And that's how things have changed for me because of AI and how that works. But to me, I'm basically facing no consequences of the existence of AI, but I know other people who definitely are. So I don't know, it's kind of interesting.
No, that makes sense. And that is a huge part, how you said copying like other content creators or just reposting it or something like that. But what I think of is, you know how actors get their voices, or AI with the voice, they can like mimic it, and then they're like, oh, I should be making money off of this, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe one day when you're famous, someone might like mimic your voice, and hey, that's Elijah. So.
I know. I was wondering, like, I feel like to me, I've made it successfully when somebody is using me in any type of way, like in AI software.
Yeah. So
right now, I encourage it. If you're watching me now, go ahead and make me sing a song or something. I don't know, but to me, and this is maybe why my opinions have been shaped the way they have, because to me, it's just not that big of a deal because I'm such a youngin when it comes to being online. But I imagine it's a lot more serious for like actors who are like, do I get money for this? I don't really know.
And so I assume you've used ChatGPT a little bit?
I have never actually used ChatGPT.
Well, something like just AI or like ChatGPT, something I've realized, if I'm just like going over some math problem, I'm going to check my answer, I use it, and I'm like, well, sometimes it doesn't get it right. I'm like, well, that's wrong. And it can just be manipulated right and be like, oh, right, you're right. And at one point, if I'm like looking for some ideas, like yesterday, I want to look for some ideas. What kind of questions can I ask these people I'm interviewing? Get some ideas off of that. At what point, though, does ChatGPT make you, let's see, I'm sort of like thinking about, so it's not your thinking, and it crosses the line where they are putting ideas into your head, kind of, and you don't realize it. And maybe you think it's your own and it's theirs. Is that too confusing, or do you
No, that makes perfect sense. This is part of the big reason why I don't use ChatGPT for anything. Now, I'm in a particularly blessed situation because I really like writing. I enjoy the process of doing these things. So I don't necessarily feel the urge to really ChatGPT something. Although I do feel like at a certain point, if you need ChatGPT to do something, you're kind of missing the point to me. Like, it seems like you're lacking some sort of fundamental understanding or some form of communication. And by using ChatGPT, you're surrendering that forever. Because if you're going to never practice doing it, you're never going to get better. You know what I mean? So, like, once you start doing that, like you start using ChatGPT to write things, you're basically conceding that why would you ever write again? You know what I mean?
No, I agree with that.
You're basically just sectioning off a portion of your life, and like from this moment on, I'm never going to write something again, which is a decision that people can make. I'm just not interested in making that decision.
And props to you. I mean, I agree with that. I also think it's a resourceful tool that, you can use to get ideas off of. But yeah, I'd say most of the time try to, produce your own words and, writing papers and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, and the temptation comes much stronger to me when we're getting assigned those 25-page deep philosophical papers. That's when the temptation for me is to throw it up and have it digest it and then summarize it for me so that I can create an opinion on that. Now, what I'll say is I've made the sacrifice of writing really terrible papers, very uneducated, because I'm choosing not to use ChatGPT to summarize the article for me. So I am making concessions in that instead of reading the article, like I'm not going to grandstand and act like I'm reading the article and developing this deep understanding. But no, I'm not even reading it at all. I'm just reading the first couple sentences and then guessing what the rest of the article is about. So I'm not going to act like I'm better than anybody for saying no. I just don't do the work instead. So that's my solution. But fundamentally, if I were to find some morals in it, it would be about not actually just attempting to read it. Rand Paul had a really interesting point where he said that he had said this when he was giving us an assignment. It's like, please do the reviews. Please read it. You are not allowed to use anything because you need to practice reading these things, and I need to see your interpretation, nobody else's. I don't care if it's wrong. And then he smuggled in this little comment. He said, even grammarly, I'm kind of skeptical of, because at a certain point, your grammar defines a lot of how you communicate. That was crazy to me. So,
me too. When he said that, I was like, well, I don't know, maybe, but like maybe I might need grammar help, even though I think most of the time I'm fine.
Yeah. So that was interesting, because what he was trying to get at is like almost at a fundamental level, choosing to put commas in certain places, even if incorrect, communicates a lot more than you might think it does. And so but he's definitely some philosophical wizard that can like read through the lines and understand that.
And back with like ChatGPT, like trying to write a philosophical paper with it can't really do philosophy. I don't know. It can spit out facts, I guess, but I don't think it can. It's not a human, right?
Yeah, I've always wanted to play around with it too. I just think that like, as wonderful as a tool as it is, just in the profession that I want to be, and the profession that you're in as a philosophy major, like, I don't know if morally you can justify using it, except for particularly utility reasons. Like, there are things that, like, you want to get done quickly, and you've accepted that you're not going to put time into this. Something like that, like, I understand, right? But, I don't know. I've never necessarily understood it. I've always found that it was kind of a bad thing. Like, it was just kind of a dangerous thing.
Yeah, and I think the whole idea of ChatGPT, especially with like youth trying to, learn, and well, do they think they're learning it, or are they just have a an illusion of understanding when they don't really understand something using ChatGPT? And I think that's a major issue that with professors and teachers trying to control the use of that. That's definitely tough right now.
Well, and what's a little scarier too, and I guess I understand the worry when it comes to this, I feel like the educational divide is going to be widened so much more, because originally it was like the people who had gone through college and like gotten an education theoretically really worked hard, and so like their education level was much higher than somebody who hadn't. But now you're adding ChatGPT, so now it's like the work that it would take to get a doctorate degree in something, having not used ChatGPT, puts you 10 times higher than even someone who has a normal degree and used ChatGPT to get the whole thing. And so it's like, now I feel like the uneducated, like if there were a class system for education.
Come in and adjust your camera.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I just feel like the class system in education is going to be very harmed by this. So yeah, and it's something I think that's why right now we have to be worried about it, because maybe right now, at least to me, I'm not being harmed directly right now, I don't think, by AI, but others are starting to, and I think it'll be more of a problem in the soon future. Like a soon future that where it's more of an issue that maybe we can't handle as well as if we can handle it now. Yeah, definitely the long-term consequences of an educated class definitely scares me a little bit. Like, there's always those memes of the doctor having Wiki pulled up, like while he like on the side, like while he's doing surgery on you, know. So that feels a little realer than it maybe should. But at the same time, too, like, it's always a battle of like efficiency versus effectiveness, you know? So like
Yeah.
with every corner you cut to make sure that you can get something done faster, you're losing a bit of like good product. And so
Yeah.
I don't mind that some people are making those cuts. Sometimes I'd rather things be faster. Like in my case, it is very nice that I can quickly put up clips. But at the same time, like the clips that I'm making are so much lower quality than they would be if I wasn't doing it. But I'm okay with making that sacrifice.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have no idea that they're making that sacrifice. They just think they're being smarter. Like, oh, I have my education, but you ChatGPT the whole thing. So it's like, do you? I don't really know.
Yeah, no, that's a huge problem with like the doctors. No, that's like, I really hope people becoming doctors right now are not that actually know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because I'd be worried about that.
Yeah,
For sure.
so-
And like, I don't know. Well, speaking of like the medical field and like mental health, well, people who can't afford therapy, you know, there's AI like therapists, which, you know, that's great for free. Just go on the internet. But then I sure hope that it's safe. And I haven't checked that out really. But actually, yesterday at this event I was interviewing people at online, they mentioned, well, it can be a good resource, but sometime it should step in. The AI be like, okay, you know, maybe I can help you a little bit, but try to seek a human companion and not get stuck or like clung to AI. Like people are getting really AI that's so close to being human. That's really concerning. AI is like as a conscious person. I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that gets, this is where to me it starts to feel like the hokey pokey AI conversation. And I think the only reason why is that to me, I really try to filter everything I hear, not being bound by the fact that a person said it, but instead being bound by whether or not I agree or like it or find it philosophically alleviating or something like that. Like, I like the content of what people say, not necessarily who said it, why they said it, with what level of conviction they said it. And so to me, I just feel like I'm not necessarily tricked by AI because it never really mattered who said it in the first place. Now, this is a very naive position for me to assume that I can just correctly determine true and untrue things and philosophically good and bad things. But I'm going to try. I think it might be more naive to just believe anything that like Donald Trump says. You know what I mean? Because if you're going to get fooled by an AI version of Trump saying something, it might be a you issue, not necessarily, although it's...
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I understand that it's attacking a particularly vulnerable group of people, which would be like the old people who are convinced by AI. So I understand that has its own harms and stuff, but I think there's an educational platform to be had here that has nothing to do with AI.
Yeah, I see that perspective where, well, yeah, it's kind of like you were fooled by it. And like maybe you should, I think everyone should, if they hear some information from someone, like any actors, or there's some, some scandal or something, or Donald Trump says something and it's AI, well, you should probably do research on get yourself informed. And I feel like there are, some people who they don't check, which is, it's new having to like check, is this AI? They didn't have to do that before AI. So definitely something new people have to get used to.
Yeah, the lies are getting a bit more elaborate, I feel. So, yeah, and I understand it. Like, I would encourage people to be checking it and doing these things. And there are some things that I just feel like what was that whole scandal? There was one where, like, it's weird because the accusation of it being AI is almost just as effective as using AI to lie. So there was, like, this one, like, image at Kamala Harris rally where they had thought that it was AI generated, that the crowd at the rally was AI generated and it wasn't actually that big.
Oh, right.
And so, yeah, they threw out this big accusation that this picture was AI generated. The crazy thing is that purports the same kind of misinformation as if the image was actually AI generated. So at that point, it's like, does it even really like matter? At this point, like, who, you know what I mean? Like,
no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, if your opinion is swayed by the physical amount of people that are at this rally, then I doubt that it's AI that's tricking you. I think that's just you're particularly vulnerable to certain types of arguments in media. And so to me, I just don't. That whole thing was very interesting to me to watch that play out. I can't remember if it was ever proven that it was or wasn't AI, so I don't have an opinion on that, but just that conversation was interesting to me.
I actually remember seeing that, and I did a little bit of research. I'm pretty sure I might be totally wrong that it wasn't AI, and maybe Trump was saying it was, maybe was, but also, yeah, you're right, just bringing up the like uncertainty of like, is this, it calls into question.
Yeah.
Like,
but yeah, it just to me, it just like I guess I understand the importance because we still have a really uneducated. No, it's hard because I feel like for 100 years we've been saying how uneducated the public is on these things.
right.
So I guess I just don't. It's hard for me to really pin it on AI, like being scared of AI when like things that are 100% proven to not be AI, it is not called into question. People still look at and are like, I don't know if this is real or not, and it has nothing to do with AI. They're just skeptical that it actually exists. So to me, I feel like we have much more fundamental issues about truth that we can't even start to unpack, like how AI could be involved in this, to me.
Yeah, I think even, before AI, things can be, are skeptical. And thinking about like politicians and, with the election, I just thought of there's some AI agents that do election predictions, which that is super, well, maybe like problematic because, are they accurate, and some people, like this company, I think it's Aru or pronounced Aru, I'm not sure. They decided to make this election prediction, and by having AI agents scour the internet or social media trying to get an accurate prediction, well, it's not, sure, it might be more efficient than going to people, right, to like, for a poll, but they're not human and they don't understand context on social media. What if someone says something and then they decide, okay, we're putting them into this category, into this party. Maybe that was sarcasm, or and there's so much that goes into if they say something, it doesn't mean they're in a certain party or something like that.
Yeah, well, and that thing's really interesting to me too. Although, I guess I have a question for this. Like, I guess what exactly are you saying is the bad part about it? Are you saying that it's bad because it's ineffective, it doesn't do the job well? Or are you saying that it's bad because it's immoral, it does something that like is morally reprehensible? Is it some combination of both? Like, I guess like where does your opinion lead to on that?
Yeah, I think election predictions can influence voters. So that's kind of why I'm a bit skeptical of it. Just by, like, I guess, why do we need a prediction, right? If people see it and like, oh, then maybe I don't need to vote, right?
Right.
They look at it. And so I think that's maybe an issue to worry about. And I see that it's definitely would be more efficient, right? Using AI. But I think it being maybe inaccurate is a cause to worry about that.
I see. So then it's more like peddling bad information as being good information is bad because it's oversaturating the market of bad information. Is that kind of what you're saying?
And I think more also just about like influencing people, and just maybe like swaying their opinion, just even if it's not about one or the other party, but just about they think that this is accurate and then they're not going to vote or something.
I see. I guess my instinct is that those problems would exist with human polls as well. Like if somebody did a poll and they just lied about the results, that would be the same level of probably more morally
Yeah.
reprehensible, right, than AI.
Yeah, no, that's a huge problem too. So you
Yeah.
bring up a really good point. Even with going around taking a poll of people, what they like, who would they vote for? For some reason, yeah, they could lie, or if you get the prediction and then just to like lie about it. That's true. That could happen. So I guess either would be bad.
And this isn't. I guess this doesn't necessarily discredit the part about statistics. I just think that like the scary part about polls in general, I feel like exists with polling. Period. Unrelated to I guess maybe if AI is doing it or if people are doing it, because you would know this in the science class that we're taking. Like the essence of humans doing a mathematical or scientific approach to discovering things is just so flawed, but it's the best we can do. AI probably has the same like limits to me. And so like all the problems that would make AI polling immoral probably also just exist for polling. Like polling's just bad or has these problems to me.
Yeah, polling in general, that's a whole topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it just goes back to AI can be, efficient, a good tool, but there's some, it's still new and it need to watch how you're using it, I guess.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. I think one of the big things, and I wonder how you feel about this, is that what AI I think is missing, and the fear comes with this disclaimer notice. Like you should know that you're watching AI. Like that's the big scary part, is that people don't know. And so I just feel like for me, even on Google, like when I Google something and then it says like this information is brought, I just scroll down. Like I don't even read it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's because like this is what AI. I just scroll past it. And like that's the option that should be granted. That should be an intuitive notion for everyone who's looking at AI, that you should just use it for what it is, but you should be highly skeptical of it. I feel like that doesn't exist. Like there's no warning that says, not only is there a lot of times where there's not a warning that says this is AI, but there should be a separate warning that says this is AI, therefore likely just awful, or like something like that, so that people can understand that, because you'd be less tricked. So.
Yeah, no, that's true. Even if it would say like this is AI, maybe some people, young people, I wonder, growing up in today's like society, do they realize like if it's something just says is AI, would they know what that is? Or like, what does that imply? Like, yeah, maybe it's wrong and false information or something. But yeah, I think that's something that sometimes I forget to think of if I'm watching something. It doesn't come to mind. It slowly has about, is this AI? And I should like maybe be more thinking about that more.
Well, and it's like a perception check too. Like when you see that little disclaimer, this is AI, is your immediate thought, oh, this is AI, so this means that it must be accurate? Or is your assumption, oh, this is AI, that means that this is garbage? And like we should be curating that assumption to where like these 60-year-olds who see AI aren't like, well, the AI says that it's true, so it must be true. You know what I mean? Like, they aren't getting tricked by these things. Their instant assumption when they see AI is like, oh, this is efficient at the cost of true. So that's something that maybe we should be training people to see or do.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the topic, right? Or like if it says something is AI, well, it could be true, right? Like could be getting the right information. But it really depends on the situation. I guess it could be totally wrong. And I guess with the older generation too, do you think, they're like, oh, so it must be true, right? If it's AI?
Yeah, that's probably my suspicion. Like, I don't know, you'll see those clips of like, I'm showing my grandma GTA footage and telling her that it's the news. And then like, she's like hands on knees, mouth open, watching it like, oh my gosh,
Oh
I
my
can't, you know what I
gosh,
mean? Like
yeah.
she's totally fooled by like,
Yeah.
I mean, PS3 graphics, you know, like, so I'm definitely skeptical that our grandparents are seeing AI and are like making these really educated decisions, like weighing the cost and benefits. Well, like based on this algorithmic approach, we like no, you know, they're just gonna think this is awesome,
Yeah.
or that robots are killing us.
Yeah. And I think there's such a broad range right now with all the generations, right? It's like, this is so new in today's world that I just think about all the ways people view it, I think is really interesting to me. And I'm really glad to be living this time, I guess. Like, it is pretty cool. And I don't know, it's like, even though it's something to worry about, it's like pretty interesting how just humanity has evolved with technology.
Yeah, I mean, what a cool problem to have. That like we've gone so efficient with the things that we can do that we're beginning to wonder if this is real or not.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the problems that we're working. Truthfully, it's probably this is philosophy making a full circle. Like at the beginning, we were trying to figure out how do we know if we're real, and now we're doing it again.
Right,
So,
right.
How do we know that this episode is actually happening and this whole thing wasn't just created by AI?
I don't know. I mean, I could be in a like dream right now. I don't know why I would put myself in a podcast, but I guess like, well, it's a really cool, interesting experience. Yeah. And actually, in that philosophy of science, just thinking about, well, actually, this was in a group discussion I had. When we're older, do you think the younger generation, there will be constantly new technology, and will we find it like hard to believe? Or maybe growing up in this time right now, I think that I'll have a more easier time growing up in this time right now so that when I'm older, I'll maybe understand or believe more what's happening. But I think it's interesting with the paradigms we're in,
Yeah. Oh man, this opens a whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
This is really weird because it's naive for me to think that because I'm just built different, that I'll be able to instantly understand all of the technology that's happening, and so that like in the future I'll be on I'll just know what's going on. A couple of caveats with this. First off, I literally have no understanding on how technology works. I cannot fathom how or why this camera is recording me. I just do not understand how it works at all.
Yeah.
And so like once this camera gets more complicated, why on earth would I think that I'm going to just understand? Like I barely know how to save and organize files on my computer. You know what I mean? Like this is just like general stuff. But then I look at my grandma who like can't even hook her phone up to the Bluetooth. And I'm like, whew. So like, I don't know. It's hard. Here's a couple important things that just totally blew my mind. One of them, some guy was talking about this on another podcast. He was talking to his nephew, and the accusation came out that kids don't know how to work these days. All of the stuff was handed to them. They don't know how to grind. They don't know how to work. And so he went up to his nephew and he was watching him play Roblox. And then the kid's playing Roblox and he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, right now I'm just like working to get enough coins to buy this skin," and it's like, "Oh, okay, do you like this game?" "No." Why do you play it?" "Oh, I just like getting this skin." So they're using their free time just to like literally work to like get in-game cosmetics. So if you think we aren't like, that's kind of one of those things where it's like, we aren't necessarily trained to know all of these things, but we are trained to keep working until we figure it out. I think we are a very problem-solving generation because when I can't download something on my computer, I know how to just Google it and figure it out. Whereas when my grandma can't download something on the computer, she calls me to do it for her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the difference, and I hope that that'll transfer over into the future, but
Yeah.
only Lord knows, I guess, dude.
That's what I hope too. Like they're, talking about, with like the chips that you can like put in your brain, or like soon they're starting.
Neuro-link?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Neuro-link. Yeah, and that's, I mean, how much more like evolving can we do with technology? Like I wonder, like in 50 years, like what is that going to look like?
Yeah. Well, that's super interesting. Would you get Neuralink?
Oh, I don't know. That's, I would have to like, I mean, it would just isn't that just, it would like,
It basically puts the internet in your brain, I believe.
Yeah.
Let's just use it that way.
so I guess that would be nice. I mean, to have like all the information, but I feel like I've got to think about it more. There's got to be some, something like, will it be like nonstop, like just thinking about like, will my brain feel full? I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
or is it just access? I can access it at any moment, and will I feel too like? Am I gonna be getting like notifications of like all over the internet of like? I don't know. See, I'm not a tech person, so I don't know.
This is really weird, like Black Mirror type. Like I don't know. Here's what I'd imagine it would be. Like instead of having to pull out your phone to Google something, you could just close your eyes and do it. Is in your head is
Yeah.
what I imagine it would be like. So it's something that you can access. It's something that you can pull out. Let's take out all of the weird. Like, do I have to watch ads in my brain before I can access
crazy.
information? Yeah. Like, are YouTube notifications and ads getting streamlined into my eyeballs? Let's just take all of that out and just say you have access to the breadth of the internet at your fingertips without having to physically do anything, and it's obviously much faster because of that.
Yeah, I think.
Would you do it?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't have to like pick up my phone and like type it if I can just like close my eyes, ask, and then I'd get the answer. There's no bad like, I don't know, issues with it or anything. I guess my go-to answer would be like, sure, it'd help, I guess. What about you?
Yeah. I don't know yet. I haven't figured it out. That's kind of why I'm asking you.
Yeah. I think with just the like Google, like, or something like that, I can quick like ask I don't know, some question on Google instead of like picking my phone. Maybe it'd be easier, but I feel like it's much more than that too.
I don't know. There's this weird fundamental concept of like work ethic and like morals that I have to wrestle with. Someone brought this to my attention on one of the first episodes that I did, like first 10 episodes, and I think about this all the time.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how our access to the internet and being able to do things all the time is a really stressful thing to have on you. So like this idea of like the grind set of like working is really weird because 50 years ago, once you were done in class, you went home and didn't do class, or you studied maybe. You had to go to the library, you had to bust out the books, and you had to look at it and you had to study that way. But now, at any moment, at any given time, I should and could be studying material. I should and could be making money on the internet. I should and could be emailing my professors to ask when I can do this, like all of this stuff. Like, it is so much easier. There's no downtime anymore to like do nothing.
Yeah.
If I don't use my 8 hours of the day to be as productive as possible, somebody who is using their 8 hours of the day is ahead of me, objectively. And so I feel like once you add Neuralink into that, that just makes things so much worse. So it's like, now when I'm sleeping, am I using my sleeping time to grind? Am I falling behind?
Oh like, my gosh.
Am I not working as hard as somebody else? Because like every moment, like they're like doing all their work in their head. Like I just feel like that would create a huge gap of productivity between people who are willing to throw their whole life away to be successful that I just would never be able to keep up with, I don't think.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I actually hadn't really thought about that. Constantly having my phone on me like all day, like, yeah, I could be, studying, doing some work. That definitely is something I didn't think about with Neuro-link.
It's really weird because what it does is you not being successful now is so much more your fault than it ever was before. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you had a lot of excuses like, oh, I couldn't study today because I didn't have time to walk to the library. It was pouring out and I don't have my library card or something like that. But now, the fact that you're even wasting your time conversing with me instead of listening to a podcast while reading a book, like, you're totally you just lost 2 hours against somebody who is like a workaholic who wants to do all of this stuff. And then you throw Neuro-link into that, and it's like the gap is just going to like widen and widen. So I don't know if morally we can allow that. I don't know if like, but at the same time, if 50% of the population decided to get Neuro-link and I wanted to be competitive in any way, I think I just have to get it. I think I'd just be like morally obliged to get it. So I don't know.
No, that's actually, that's pretty crazy. It reminds me when my dad would be like, I'd go to the library for hours and I'd have to like find the book and everything. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like so much work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I'm spoiled. And like, it's just, I think that's something really with the work ethic. I hadn't thought of in a second that, now I'm stressing. I should be doing something.
Yeah, why are you wasting your time talking to me? We should be like out there like grinding, doing some other. Well, and it's bizarre too because now, and I don't know if this is related to this or if this is unrelated, but it's like I had such a busy day today. I skipped the one class I was supposed to go to. I am pooped. You know what I mean? And it's so bizarre that like now your level of working really hard is that you doom scrolled for 8 hours and like you did a full day's work, like our ideas of what hard work is has changed a lot because like what my productivity that took me 3 hours to do because of technology took somebody a full work day to do like 40 years ago. And so it's like really weird to assess, am I actually more productive than my ancestors or like, is it just easier to output the same amount of things? I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's like stressing me out.
That's kind of a stressful thing about. And actually something I just remembered you brought up with the competitiveness of what if a lot of people get Neuralink or just like compete. That makes me think of with like gene editing and like what if a lot of people or like editing your kids' like genes, and then that's kind of crazy. They're gonna be like so good at whatever area, biology, math, or whatever, or be really good in like music, and then the other kids are like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, the kid just comes out knowing how to code in Python, like you know what I mean? Like in the womb, you're injecting him with the Neuro-link so that he can study. Wow, if you want to talk about productivity, you can be doing this in the womb. Like step 1, you're like learning English. Like imagine being able to walk, talk, and do everything. This is the boss baby. Like imagine being able to like walk and talk and do all of the things that you're supposed to be able to do at like 20 as like a 3-year-old. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think if we're going to talk about a divide monetarily, we're going to talk about a divide like in knowledge, education. If we're going to talk about a divide like this could potentially, just eradicate the entire bottom class of people. Like this is definitely that stuff worries me as far
with
as
the
like
genes
with like gene editing or like adding this Neuralink, this capacity to just Google whatever you want. That stuff is just like freaky.
Yeah, and I want to do more research on how AI intertwines with all that for sure. Since I'm still new with this this AI in the world and everything, learning about that. Yeah.
How do you feel about AI art? Like, how do you feel about that when it comes to creating something?
That's tricky because actually I think it was last year, I took like an art history class for fun, which was pretty cool. And when the professor brought up like AI art. She showed us some like art pieces, like Ada has done, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. But I think knowing that it was done by AI and not a human, it kind of changes, my perspective of it. But then like, when does AI like? It's hard to imagine there might be a future where AI is like kind of human. You know what I mean? Um, it's like, well, it's I don't know, like this Ada android. It had the idea to like draw this piece. Like, why isn't it as good as this other this human? And which is pretty difficult for me to think about. But I'd say that just human, like with the work ethic they put into their art piece, I've got to go with I'd prefer like art by people.
Yeah, it's this is a weird like perception thing for me to where it's like if you say words and nobody's there to hear it, you're not really speaking. You're just making noise. You know what I mean? Like language only
Yeah.
exists from the perception of another person. It's kind of like if a tree falls in the woods, nobody doesn't make a noise. Kind of like that. It's like if you're interpreting art, I feel like so much of it comes from one, a human interpreting it, but a lot of that interpretation comes from the fact that you're interpreting the mindset of the person who did it, who made it, who drew
Yeah.
it. And so if you're missing that, there's no conversation to be had, and you're just like looking at something, you know? So I feel like there's definitely a super important aspect of like imagining the 30 hours it took to like literally paint this
Right.
or to like
Right.
come up with the concept of this. And there's some sort of like work that you get to appreciate when you're looking at art. I don't know how big of a deal that is because art isn't always for art's sake. Art can just be for a literal purpose. Like I put stock footage on my clips. There's no purpose for that. It's just to like stimulate your eyeballs. So I would never consider that like I would never look at that in terms of it needing to be art, but at the same time, there's also art. Like the Mona Lisa is art because of, its historical value, not because it looks awesome,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
Do you think that like an art piece by like AI today, well, people like, I don't know, in 100 years, well, it has historical value. It's 100 years.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, like this is the start of AI.
yeah, it might be famous or something.
Yeah, that's really interesting too. Like this is just the tip of the iceberg. Like 100 years from now, they're like, can you believe humans told AI what to do instead of AI telling AI
Yeah.
what to, something like that. So,
Yeah.
or maybe they'll just be like, this art sucks. Like even like art that's done by humans is like, this is super bad now that our advanced technology has widened the color spectrum by like 6 degrees. This,
Yeah.
whatever needs to
Yeah.
happen.
Going back to, I know you're skeptical of like, or you're not sure like why you should be worried about AI right now. My go-to is, well, have you seen any movies? Like,
Yeah.
well, I know, in the future there's the
Oh, like the
scare that
Terminator.
AI can, like take over the world and all that. But that's and well, I have no clue if, what's going to happen. But, well, with that, and then people worrying about like their jobs, and that's, I think it can create some jobs, with like ethical considerations about it. But it can definitely take away a lot of people's jobs. So
Yeah, and that's a much more interesting concern. I think right now I'm a little less skeptical. I think humans are going to ruin themselves with AI well before AI ruins humans of its own volition. I think
right,
that's much riskier. That like the things we're talking about with like Neuro-link or like some of the other things, that's much riskier to me than it would be that AI is going to become conscious because like Plankton singing Rihanna songs, that's where we're at right now. Like
yeah, I'm
that's
good with that.
yeah, that's expert level of AI. That's not going to kill us anytime soon.
Yeah.
That'd be a big leap to do that. But with the stealing jobs, like the writer's strike thing was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Like that whole conversation, it's this weird. I just watched this Drew Gooden video talking about it. And he was talking about just like the oversaturation. Like Spotify will have AI. This is all theoretical, but
Okay.
if people are concerned about this, that Spotify has its own AI artists that make music so that it oversaturates the market with music that people can listen to so that they can stop paying people commission per
Oh,
listens because you can just have AI make your own music. And especially with that low effort, like piano music, didn't mean to crap on my piano players like
hey.
that. By that I meant like as in it's just like a couple chords, and
Yeah.
it's supposed to be like soothing to sleep to. Like that could just be completely made by AI now. And now you no longer have to commission a person who actually like created that. And so that has a weird thing, and it's the same thing with like the writer's strike where they were like writing is getting oversaturated. Like we need actual humans making actual writing. So I don't know. That definitely concerns me. Do you have any
Yeah,
like
I
statistics
actually.
or thoughts on this or like?
Ooh, well, I wasn't actually aware about the Spotify thing. That's pretty scary. I honestly, that is just that's just hard to think about how are artists going to musical artists going to deal with that. Um, I don't know if I have any statistics for you right now. But
No, and
checking,
and that's totally okay. I just for me, it's like hard to imagine a funny AI. You know what I mean? Like, and if an AI is
yeah,
funny, it's because a human thought of the concept that AI is now executing. So like plankton singing is super funny, but that's because a human was like, what if plankton sang chandelier? You know what I mean?
right.
That's why it's funny because a human did it and then now it's happening. I just like I couldn't imagine an SNL sketch being funny because AI wrote it. Like that's where like the jobs thing is like getting a little weird for me to where it's like I don't necessarily see the risk here. So I think I
Hmm.
just have to see like all you'd have to show me is like look at this sketch or this thing and it's gonna make you cry or laugh. AI actually wrote this, then I'd be like, whoa, okay,
Yeah,
I see now. I just haven't seen any good quality things being created by AI that worry me right
yeah,
now.
and yeah. Well, that's no, that is true. It's definitely people like with that plankton example, all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when you brought up that humans are going to like how we deal with AI, you said that that's more worrisome than like AI um, in the future, right? Um, and that's why I think we need to like control how right now we're dealing with AI and just like some companies' policies. I know I heard that Google, I think was it maybe Brent Paul maybe mentioned this, or maybe it was Anne Marie, who another philosophy professor here, who actually might be will be the advisor of the club. I start. She said that, or maybe it was someone else, but that Google, I think recently in the past few years or something, took off their ethical or their like team just to like, oh, we don't need it. We decided not to have it, and I think that's more AI ethicists are coming out. I'm like, well, maybe you shouldn't have done that. You kind of need your ethics team. So
Yeah, you should probably have a team of people that are deciding whether or not
yeah.
this is good or bad. You should have someone to pull you back a
Yeah, we
little
need
bit.
to regulate some things they're coming out with, like that character AI. Again, that's a bit with the youth today. Just maybe they don't know exactly what they're dealing with, and like us, we can be like, oh, maybe this AI, I don't know how to. Like I know that this might be like false or it might be true. I just need to research it. How is the youth going to know that? Are they learning in school right now, in elementary school, like classes about AI? Like, hey, watch out for this.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was saying with where the work in AI to me, it seems like it's going to come from educating people on how good AI actually is. Like it's more so that than the dangers of AI. It's just going to be like, look, when you see something that has a warning label that says it's AI, this is what it's referring to. And then telling people that that normally means that it's probably not like a super reliable source. That's the kind of education that I feel like is really important. Whereas a lot of people, education on AI comes from like you should watch The Terminator. Like, isn't
Yeah.
that crazy? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's and that's I think most people like go to is like the movies and that but they maybe don't realize that little things like in mental health, AI has a huge impact. There's, good. Again, I think you've done a good job of reminding me with like plankton and what good comes out of AI too. There is, it's great, but we should just, think about how we're using it. And, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. But we're about an hour now for the episode.
Okay.
But I want to give you an opportunity to maybe talk about the club that you plan on starting at Iowa State, and then you kind of just get the last word to platform. Maybe there's a theme from this episode that you want to talk about, and then any plugging you want to do. This is kind of the floor is yours to round this episode out.
Okay, great. Well, I'm really grateful for All Tech is Human. And Anne-Marie Butler, one of the philosophy professors at Iowa State, in the spring when she mentioned this organization to me, I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. I should look into that. And when I joined the University Network Board this fall, Stephen Keltz, the board director, he's been great to work with. And I'm just so excited for the opportunities that the future will bring. And I'm really excited to get an All Tech is Human club started at Iowa State. I will be studying abroad in New Zealand next semester, which I am excited about. I'm going to bring it over there. So I believe we might have someone in Australia, but it's not New Zealand. So I'm going to go to some professors there. Hey, we should bring this organization here. And anyway, I'll be over there. And then I think in the fall, then it will be a club here. So I really hope if this interests you at all, you can be any background. All Tech is Human. There's so many people in philosophy, psychology, computer science, engineering, sociology that just are interested in the field. So once we make it a club, hopefully we'll be at Club Fest, and then you should stop by.
Yeah. Well, it was awesome having you on, and I think
thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Yeah.